Ever wonder what happens to your favorite movie props after the credits roll? Do they just get tossed into some dusty studio warehouse? Well, some do, but others, they go on this wild journey to the auction block, and they fetch prices that are just absolutely mind-blowing. So today, we're going to follow the money and find out which ones are the most valuable in history.
I mean, really, what does happen to the Batmobile? Or, say, Dorothy's ruby slippers? They become part of something way, way bigger, a global market that is just exploding in value.
Okay, let's just start with a number, $30 billion. It's a staggering figure, right? But what on earth does it represent in the world of movie props?
That's how much is spent every single year on these pieces of movie history. It is a massive industry, but what's truly shocking isn't how big it is right now, it's where it's headed. And if you thought 30 billion was big, you might want to sit down for this one. $1.3 trillion. That's a T. It's a number so big it's almost hard to wrap your head around.
Yep, that's the projected value of this market by 2030. And that's because these aren't just fun collectibles anymore. Nope, they're serious alternative investments. So, with that in mind, let's count down the absolute most expensive props ever sold.
But before we get to our top 5, I've got a few warm-up stories that are just too good to skip. I mean, these really set the stage for how totally wild this market can get.
Okay, just look at this first one. So back in 1989, some guy buys an abandoned storage container in a blind auction for less than $100. And what's inside? Oh, just the actual Lotus submarine car from the Bond film The Spy Who Loved Me. He turned a $100 gamble into an $860,000 payday. Can you even imagine?
Or how about this one? Steve McQueen's racing suit from the movie Le Mans was originally just given away as a prize in a newspaper contest. Decades later, it hits the auction block and sells for almost $1 million. Talk about the world's greatest contest prize.
Sometimes a single film can create this whole ecosystem of value. Take The Wizard of Oz. The Cowardly Lion costume, which was made from real lion fur, by the way, sold for $3 million. And then you have the ruby slippers, which were bought by a group that included Steven Spielberg and Leonardo DiCaprio, and they went for $2 million. Just incredible.
All right, we've seen some huge numbers so far, but believe me, you haven't seen anything yet. We are now officially entering the top 5 most expensive movie props of all time.
And kicking off our top 5 is, quote, the stuff that dreams are made of. It's the lead statuette from the classic 1941 film noir, The Maltese Falcon. This little bird sold for a staggering $4.1 million.
Now let's move on to a battle of the iconic cars. At number 4, we've got the original 1966 Batmobile, which sold for $4.2 million. But just barely edging it out at number 3 is James Bond's legendary Aston Martin DB5 from Goldfinger. That one went for $4.4 million. So you have two of the most famous cars in history selling for a combined total of almost $9 million.
But get this, there were actually 2 of those Aston Martins used for the films. The one that sold was the hero car. The other one, the effects car, that was kitted out with all the gadgets, well, it was stolen from an airport hangar back in 1997, and it has never been seen again. The mystery continues.
All right, we are down to our final 2. Taking the runner-up spot at number 2 is...
It is one of the most famous images in the history of cinema. You know the one. Marilyn Monroe, standing over a subway grate, her white dress blowing up in the air. That exact dress, from the movie The 7-Year Itch, was part of actress Debbie Reynolds' legendary collection, and it sold for an unbelievable $4.6 million.
Okay, so what could possibly top Marilyn Monroe's dress, James Bond's car, and the Maltese Falcon? The time has come. Let's reveal the single most expensive piece of movie memorabilia ever sold. The number 1 spot, the champion of the auction block. What could it possibly be? I'll give you a clue from the auction house that sold it.
Any guesses? Cinema's most famous and instantly recognizable robot. Now, it's not R2-D2, it's not C-3PO.
It's Robbie the Robot from the 1956 sci-fi classic Forbidden Planet. This pioneering piece of science fiction history sold for a record-breaking $5.375 million, making it the undisputed king of movie props.
So this all brings us to the big question, right? These are incredible, incredible prices for what are essentially old props. What's driving this frenzy? Why are people spending millions and millions of dollars on this stuff?
While the answer is that these have become a really powerful class of alternative investments,
See, unlike stocks, their value isn't tied to the whims of the market. It's tied to nostalgia, to rarity, and cultural significance. It really represents a big shift in what we consider a valuable asset. It's not just about a financial return anymore, it's about owning a real, tangible piece of a shared global story. For these collectors, owning the actual Batmobile is a better investment, and let's be honest, it's way cooler than just another stock certificate.
And this really makes you think, doesn't it? If you had an unlimited budget, what iconic prop, costume, or vehicle from movie history would you want to own? A lightsaber? The DeLorean from Back to the Future? It's a fun question to think about. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.